Today is going to be so dope, y'all. Like, for real dope. I'm so excited. Alexa, stop. So disrespectful. I'm so excited, y'all. Like, God is so good. I know y'all hear me say that all the time, and you will never not hear me give him the glory and the honor and the praise. He is so worthy and so faithful. God is just so amazing. But I'm so excited because if you've been following my posts these last couple of days, I talked about how God told me to come boldly to ask him a question, to ask him when. That's one thing. As long as I've been on this new journey of 2020 of walking with Christ and accepting his call, I've never asked him when. And he told me Saturday night, clearly, he said, come boldly and ask me when. And when I asked him when, y'all, when I tell you he spoke the day clear as ever, which is today, Wednesday. He told me Wednesday. I said, okay, God, you know your daughter. You know me better than I know myself. I need some confirmation. So he's giving me confirmation after confirmation after confirmation. And basically it was similar to Genesis 18:10 when the Lord told Abraham, by this time next year when I return, your wife Sarah will have had a son. And I just want to encourage you guys, because what God was speaking to me last night and even early this morning, we as a people have wrapped our faith up in a box, and we've stuck to only, we're going back to religion, and we've stuck with only things that either the way God has moved for our grandparents, the way we've seen God move in church, the way our pastors have told us God is going to move, and we limit the way God chooses to move. Even when I made a few posts earlier this week just saying God gave me my answer of when, most would look at it like, God doesn't show up when you expect him to show up. He always shows up when he's ready to show up. That is true. But what if God wants to do a new thing? And who's to say God can't do that new thing in you? I never thought I could ask God when would those miracles take place? When would I be able to see those things unfold? And he clearly told me today. But he also told me to get on here and go live and to share with his people. We got to get out of the mindset just because maybe he didn't do it that way for our grandparents, or that way for our aunts and uncles, or that way for the way the pastor spoke in the church, doesn't mean he can't do it through us that way, or he can't do it through us a new way. And God desires to do a new thing. And too many of us, I say us as well, we look at it like if we've never heard of him moving that way or speaking that way or revealing himself that way, then it can't happen. And God is looking for a generation that he can bring forth, a generation that he can raise up that will allow him to move how he chooses to move. I don't know what's going to take place today, but all I know is I clearly heard God say Wednesday. He's given me too much confirmation. And if you go back to the book of Numbers, God is not a man that he shall lie. He's never made a promise that he does not keep. He's never spoken and failed to act. And I'm here to encourage you to have faith so big, because it was the moment that I finally told God, I know you're going to move. I don't know when, I don't know how. I just trust that you're going to do it. But I've taken the limits off of how I think you're going to show up, or how I think it should be done. The moment I gave God that access and allowed my faith to be stretched even more, that's when he told me to come to him boldly and ask him when. So when I asked when and he said Wednesday, I was like, Lord, you know this daughter of yours. I need more confirmation. He's given confirmation after confirmation after confirmation, even when I woke up this morning. But of course, the enemy was in my ear this morning. Like, you woke up, everything looks the same and nothing has changed. But I told God to move however he chose to move. Surprise me, do things unexpected. Because if we limit God when we want him to move, but there's only a certain way he can move or a certain way he could do it. God desires for us to take the limits off of what he can do, how he can do it, when he could do it, who he could do it through. And he just told me, all he said is get excited again. It's going to be big. So I have to be obedient and give this message, because many of you are probably waiting on the move of God. Maybe he spoke something to you. Maybe you haven't seen him move yet. Let me say this first, because he's convicting me right now. There have been times, y'all have to understand, this journey for me has been 3 years. I've just been open about it this year. So this has been a 3-year journey. This did not happen overnight. There have been plenty of times this year that I felt for everything in me, God was going to show up that day. All signs pointed to it. And here is where I was guilty. It was words that I heard for someone else, and I manipulated that word and manipulated God to the point where I made that be my word. Part of it was my word. The timing wasn't my word. I would hear somebody speak a sermon on YouTube, and they would say, I don't know who this message is for, but God told me this time tomorrow, or God told me in 7 days, or God told me in 3 days, or God told me in 21 days. I used to always be like, yes, Lord, okay, 7 days, you're going to do it. This time tomorrow, you're going to do it. 3 days from now, you're going to do it. Do y'all know every single time he didn't show up like I thought he was going to show up? But I still showed up. I still gave him the glory. I still praised him because he's worthy to be praised. But this time around, God said, I want you to get excited again. I want you to have hope again. I want you to believe again. All of those times you thought I was going to show up and I didn't. I never told you that I was showing up. You manipulated that word and made it for yourself. And I'm pretty sure many of you listening now probably could relate to that. Unless I'm the only one being vulnerable and transparent, then I'll share, yes, I'm guilty of that. But God spoke to me so clearly this weekend. He said, you went by times you thought I should show up, times you just felt the timing was right. But I trust you. You've proven yourself trustworthy. Because even when everything in you pointed to all signs saying, yes, today is going to be that day, or tomorrow is going to be that day, you still served me. You still fulfilled your assignment. You still worshiped me. You still gave me all the glory, which you were supposed to do, but you've never come to me and asked me when. So when I got bold, and y'all, it happened when he told me to come boldly to the throne. My husband was watching the game. I'm not into sports like that, but whatever game he was watching, the football player, the back of his jersey said boldly. And, you know, God was speaking. He said, come to me boldly with that question and ask me when. I want you to ask me when. And when I asked, I still didn't think it was going to be that soon, that today would be the day. Yes, I was hoping that as soon as I open my eyes, everything will look different. But God is like, I want to surprise you. You know something is happening today. You know something is going down today, but I desire to surprise you. So take the limits off. You told me I could come in and do it however I choose to do it. If you take the limits off, you allow me to exceed your expectations. But God is desiring to break the rules. And too many of us, who made these rules? You know, I was talking to God this morning. He's like, man made these rules that I could only show up this way. I could only speak this way. I could only do it this way because this is what I've done in the past. Yes, God wants us to look at our neighbors and see, oh, if he did it for them, he could do it for us, which is true. But what if he desires to do it a different way? And too many times we limit him for how he can move, because it's like man has made rules. We've done religion, we've done culture. And if it wasn't performed this way in the Bible, or if he didn't speak this way, or if they didn't talk about it this way in church, it's almost like he can't do it that way. But God spoke to me this morning that he's desiring to raise up a nation and to raise up a people, raise up a generation that will allow him to come in and just move however he chooses to move, to speak however he chooses to speak. And he's desiring to do it in ways that have not been seen or heard of before. The Bible does say eyes have not seen nor have ears heard. So if we keep saying, well, God moved this way for my neighbor, he moved this way for my grandparents, and I know my pastor speaks about him moving that way and speaking that way, but what if God desires to do it in a way that not only your generation or your family or your bloodline has never seen? What if he desires to do it a way that the world has not seen? Why can't that start with you? Who on here has enough faith to allow God to move on their behalf, but take the limits off of how he can do it? I was told that I couldn't ask him when, and he wouldn't tell me when, because it was always God's timing. Yes, it was God's timing. And all those times, months and months and months before, that I thought he was going to show up and I wanted him to show up, I went by what I felt. I had never come to him boldly to ask him when. Not only did I ask him when, he answered. He answered. And I'm not saying, here's the thing. Y'all got to understand, this is not just something he has cut access just for me. I will say my blessing and my miracle has been tailor-made, but each and every one of you have that access to him as well. You have those privileges. You have that potential as well. But will you have enough faith and allow God to come in and move however he chooses to move, even if it hasn't been heard of before, if it hasn't been seen before? If your pastors or those who are wise counsels tell you, I don't know, I've never seen God move like that, or I've never seen him speak like that. Who's to say? Like, man is the one who made these rules. And God spoke to me this morning. He wants to break the rules. Not only does he want to break the rules, he wants to do things out of order. If he restored this family, yes, he's showing you if he did it for them, he could do it for you. But what if he desires to do it in a different way, a different time frame? You know, what if it took theirs months, and what if he wants to do it for you instantly, like overnight? Just because we look at how God has moved in the past, and we think that's the only way he can move. Yes, we say we have faith. Yes, we say, God, show up, show out, do whatever you want. But if you are like myself, we tend to still have in our mind how we think it's supposed to happen, when we think it's supposed to happen, the way we think it's supposed to happen. And God is saying today, he wants to break the rules. God never set those rules. Man made those rules. Man is the one who said it has to be done this way. He only speaks this way. He shows up this way, and it's done in this order. He can't do this without doing this. God is saying, I want to rearrange all the order. I want to do things out of order, and I want to break the rules. But I need vessels. I need people that I can trust that will allow me to come in and move on their behalf, however I choose to do it. And just because those around him say they haven't seen me that way or haven't heard me speak that way doesn't mean I can't show up that way. In the book of Isaiah, God said, who can I send? And send me, Lord. Here I am. Send me. And that's always my prayer, Lord. If you want to do something, use me. Decrease me and increase on the inside of me. And I want to ask you, those of you who are on here now, or even if you catch the replay, will you allow God to break the rules in your life? Will you allow God to break the rules from the way you've always known him to move, the way you've known him to show up, the way you've been taught about him? I don't care how old you are, how young you are, how much faith you have, how deep your belief is, how deep your relationship is with him. God desires for us to get so deep into our relationship and intimate in our relationship with him that he could reveal himself in ways that he hasn't been seen of before. Or he can speak in ways that nobody has heard him speak before. Or he can show up in ways that nobody has ever known him to show up before. Will you allow God to break all the rules in your life? Does God have access to all of it? Or do you have stipulations for how it has to be done, the way it has to be done? I was guilty of expecting him to show up time after time. And there were times, y'all, I can hear from God. But there were times that the signs pointed like it was him. This is him. This is him. He's going to show up. But I had never asked him myself when. I had never taken the limits off. I had never given him access. God said he desires to have not partial access. Some of us are giving him limited access in our lives. And when we do that, we limit how God can move on our behalf. We limit the way he can perform the miracles. And that's why it becomes a cycle. That's why he did it this way for our great-grands, and he did it this way for our grandparents, and he did it this way for our parents, and he's doing this way for us. But what if God desires to do it in a way that no one has seen or no one has heard of? Can he start with you? Can he break the rules with you? Can he do it out of order with you? Even if it does not feel good while he's doing it. I've said this earlier when I hopped on here. I don't know what today holds, but I know what I heard my father say, and today is the day. So I will be excited when I can come on after today to share what took place and what happened today. All I know, I've told God to surprise me. When someone is throwing you a surprise party, you don't need to know all the details. You may know the date that someone is going to do something, but you don't know what time, you don't know how. That's what makes it a surprise. All I know is today is my day that the promises God spoke over my life earlier this year began to unfold. Keep in mind, today is September 30th, the last day of the number 9, the 9th month. 9 is a number for birth. Your faith, some of you, this word isn't for everybody, but some of you, your faith alone is your birthing position for God to help you deliver, to push out the very thing that he's placed on the inside of you. Now is not the time to have your faith all over the place. Now is not the time to second guess him. I could have easily said, okay, God, you promised me today, and I woke up and everything looked the same. It is only 9:28 in the morning. He still has the entire day. And I don't care if he shows up at 11:59 p.m. tonight. God is not a man that he shall lie. I'm looking for him everywhere today because I know what he promised me, but I don't know how he's going to do it because I took me out of it. I'm allowing God to come in and break the rules. I'm allowing him to come in and do things out of order. So when I come live again and just shout from the rooftops and mountaintops how God has moved, we could reference back to this live right here. That's where my faith is at. I want to encourage you to take the limits off of God. Just because you haven't seen him move a certain way or he hasn't done it a certain way for your generation or those around you, will you allow him to do it differently for you? Will you allow him to show up in a way he's never been seen before for you? Will you allow him to break the rules? Will you take yourself out of it and stop trying to manipulate it when and how and where and the way you want it to happen? Because I can tell you now, that drained me. I don't know about y'all, but that drained the life out of me trying to manipulate. Okay, it must be going to happen this day and this time, and it's probably going to happen like this. And if my peace is light, his thoughts are higher than ours. His ways are above ours. And that's all God spoke to me. Let me do this the way I want to do it. I want you to take your hands completely off of it so I can surprise you in such a way, because when you say yes to God and when you suffer on his behalf, for the things that he's going to take you through, for what it is he could get out of you, God is going to come back and deliver those promises. And some of you may have heard God speak and God has promised you something and you haven't heard it yet. I want to tell you to hang on to that word, because God won't always repeat his promise. When he speaks it, he expects you to hold on to that. And I had to store that away in my vault, like my heart. I stored that away in my heart. So times that everything looked like it was against it, I could pull that back out and remember, okay, this is what God said to me. But I want to be clear, y'all, this has been going on for 3 years. I've been in this situation for 3 years now. 3 years. But I just was public about saying yes in my walk with God and the things that he's been allowing me to go through or the things that he's been taking me through. I've just been public about it this year. So God may have spoken to some of you this year, and maybe your breakthrough will still happen this year. That's just how God moves. Just because mine took 3 years doesn't mean yours is going to be 3 years. Abraham waited 25 years for his blessing. Listen, I've talked with Jesus. Please don't make this daughter of yours make 25 years. But he does it differently for everybody. Will you just allow? Because when he does it, we got to understand it's going to be so good. God knows what we need. He wants to give us our heart's desires. He wants to come back and reward us for everything we've been through and heal us and restore our land and restore the years that the locusts ate up and give you back everything you lost. God told me not only is he going to give me the things that the enemy thought he stole from me, it's going to be an increase. Like, I'm not just thrusting you back and going to restore everything. I'm going to multiply it. That's how big this is. And every time I start praying and talking to God and thinking, okay, yeah, you're going to do this, all he keeps telling me is bigger. Oh, it's going to be bigger than that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, you're going to do it this way. He's saying bigger. So I've taken myself out of it. Lord, however you choose to do it. Now I know when. I'm not saying today is just the only day, but today unfolds. Today is the day I stepped into the miracle. The season of suffering is over. The worst of my season is over. The pruning is over. The process and preparation, that part is over now. The valley is over. The wilderness is over. The storm is over. Lord, y'all, it was times I didn't think I was going to make it through. It was times I wanted to quit. It was times I was saying, I'm done with this. I can't deal with this. Lord, pick somebody else. Choose somebody else that you want to use. I don't even want this anymore. It was a lot of those times. It was times I felt this was heavy. It was too much. I'm not equipped for this. I'm not qualified for this. Why did you choose me? I don't want this anymore. But I thank God that he didn't give up on me all the times I wanted to give up on myself, that he pushed me, that he believed in me, that he reminded me. And he didn't comfort me every time. Sometimes he rebuked me. Because we have to know as mature Christians, and that's the thing, yes, God is a comforter, but God is, he says, I am whatever it is that you need. There were times he knows it wasn't comfort that I needed. I needed to be rebuked. I needed to be disciplined. I needed to be corrected. But when we think, someone says, oh, he rebuked you with something evil. No. But if you get to know God, he is, I am whatever it is that you need at that particular moment. We think about the rules all over again, and God desires to break them. Y'all, I wanted to quit. I wanted to give up. If this is you, if this message is touching you and you have not seen God move yet and you're getting tired, I want to tell you to keep going. He's going to require you to do things that makes no sense. He's going to require you to do things that hurts. He's going to require you to do things that you feel like it's more pain and more suffering. Like, God, you can't be in this. This is too bad. This hurts too much. This is too painful. But God is looking for a people that he can trust, that are focused on purpose and calling over comfort. I had to be trained up for that. God had to check my character and recalibrate the way I think, recalibrate my heart. He had to change everything about me and then come back and check it again and make sure, okay, let me test it here. Let me see how the heart is going to be here. Let me test the heart here. Is it still bitter? Does it still have resentment? Does it still have anger? Does it still have fear? Does it still have anxiety? Time after time after time, but keep going. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better. I'm speaking from experience. Just keep going. All I'm saying is to trust God, lean on God, trust God some more, and allow him to break the rules. Just because you haven't seen it done before doesn't mean he doesn't want to use you as a vessel and let it start with you. I want to be the game changer. And if God told me that I'm a trailblazer, that means I have to go first. I have to go first into all this fire and these trials and dodging these bullets and these arrows and fighting these battles, because the trailblazer goes first to pave the way for everybody else. Can you be the Moses in your family? Can you go ahead of everyone else and allow God to speak through you and allow God to use you and allow God to equip you and allow God to prepare you for you to save a nation, to save a people, to shake the kingdom? And not only can you be that person, but will you allow him to break the rules? Will you allow him to do something new through you? Something you haven't seen, something you haven't heard, something no one else has seen or heard. God said he's ready to break the rules. Y'all, I'm so excited. I'm so ready for today. My faith, my joy, my excitement, my peace, my happiness, my smile, my everything is on a high today. Nothing can shake that. Nothing can stop that, because I know what God promised me. Y'all be blessed. Have an amazing day. Stay prayed up. God is ready to move on your behalf. Give him the access. Take your hands out of it and just let God do what God is going to do. Let God do what he does best. Be God. You can't be God and he be God at the same time. God wants to rock your world. God wants to blow your mind. God wants to surprise you in such a way and just give you things and show you things and reveal things to you that no one else has seen or heard. And he desires to do that through you too. I'm not the only one, but I was one that was willing to say, use me, send me, here I am. Y'all be blessed. I'm so excited. Stay prayed up. I will see you guys. I will see you guys next time. Bye.